Okay. I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried because I kind of have a cough, but not really have a cough. Hi, Warrior. Hi, Teal. Hi, Pappy. Hi. Did I say Warrior? Yes. Hi, Ash. I know Kono's here and I know Peachy's here as well. I feel like I have a cough kind of like in my throat, but it's not itchy and it's not sore. It's like a weird cough. I don't know what caused it. I was worried before, like maybe like an hour ago, I was kind of like coughing a lot more frequently, but now it's kind of calmed down, so I'm hoping that it'll go away. I have some cranberry juice. Cranberry juice. Delicious. Hi, cat! I will take care. So remember those chili chews that I tried the other day? They were like sour and spicy and sweet. I found out that if I chew on them on one side, they're a lot milder. But if I chew on them on the other side, like of my mouth, it's like, oh, I won! If I chew on them on the other side, it's really sour and spicy. I think it's like, they say like if you eat on one side of your teeth! Your teeth! I hope it goes well. I hope it goes well, cat. I'm sure it will. Sour and spicy. Sweet and sour. Sweet and sour, sour and spicy. Sour and... What's that soup that's like... hot and sour? Hot and sour soup? Is that what it's called? You're gonna be zoinked out. Zoink. Zoinks! Oh man, now I want hot and sour soup. I'm gonna ask my mom. Maybe we can get hot and sour soup. Pleading face, pleading face, pleading face. Yay! You won! Yeah! Gummies are so hard to eat. Okay. Ah! Oh my god, it's in my forehead! Dang. Hala didn't gift you it. Okay. Let's just get into it, shall we? Shall we? So, what was happening last time? We read 62 pages last time. 62 pages! I started the book last time, didn't I? Dang. Insane. Number 1 victory! Royale, yeah, Fortnite, we about to get down. Get down! So, Tiger Star is now the leader of Shadow Clan. So far, oh, I remember now. Okay, so far, he hasn't done, well, at the beginning, it didn't seem like he did anything sussy. What's that smell? Okay, it's nothing. at the beginning, it didn't feel like he was kind of like, he was all humble and he was all like, oh yeah, like, I'm just here to make Shadow Clan the best it ever will be, you know. Star Clan guided me. We found out that Nightstar didn't actually have any lives. He wasn't actually accepted by Star Clan to be the leader of the clan. So when he died by the sickness, he just went. But I guess Tiger Star was... Okay, here's my issue. Why would they grant Tiger Star 9 lives? Like, I mean, I don't know, maybe they didn't, but like, huh? They wouldn't give Nightstar 9 lives, but they'd give Tiger Star 9 lives, supposedly. Sounds suspicious, if you ask me. Okay, bye, warrior. So, that was weird. At first, Fireheart was kind of like, oh yeah, maybe it's like all good. Maybe all what he... Maybe his thirst for... His thirst for power has now been quelled and he'll be a good cat again. But then, who was it? Mossy something? Mistyfoot's mom, who's an elder, was wandering about, got lost, wandered into like the 4 trees area, and she thought that Tiger Star was Oakheart. Misty Pool? Oh yeah, Misty Pool. How do you remember those names? I don't even remember them. The old one. Mossy something. I'm pretty sure it was Mossy something. The old she cat. She wandered. She thought that Tiger Star was Oakheart. And was like, oh, Oakheart, you know those kits you gave me. And then Tiger Star was like, huh? What kits? And then she was like, you know what kits? The kits from Thunder Clan you gave me. And then he was like, huh? And then Mossy was like, oh, wait, you're not Oakheart. And then Tiger Star started advancing on her. And then she stumbled backwards and then fell off some rocks and bashed her head and then died. Hi, G-Dog! J-Dog. Why did I say G-Dog? Hi, J-Dog! And so that was sad. Then Fireheart witnessed that. So now we know that Tiger Star knows that there are some... Thank you for the follow! Alcatraz lock up for life. Meet the warrior. Warrior cats. The detective. Welcome. Thank you for following. I'm of loss of thought. I've lost my thought. Where'd it go? Fleece Johnson. Who's Fleece Johnson? But I do have a warrior cat. Her name is Jessie. Jessie? That's no warrior cat name. What's going on also in the book? Oh, the dogs are here. There are dogs here now. Not her actual name. I gave her name because she couldn't understand English. I don't know what her actual name is. She will not tell me. Oh. Jessie's a cute name. It's like from Team Walker. Team Walker? Team Rocket. Clearly it's a swagger rogue. True. So they're dogs in ThunderClan. Oh, yeah! Remember, I'm just doing the... You didn't miss anything, Hands. I'm still doing the summary from last reading. So the dogs are loose. We found out Snowkit was blind. No, Snowkit was deaf. And then short hair. And then a hawk flew above and then swooped down and took Snowkit, and Snowkit's dead now. So Snowkit's dead. Mossy something is dead. Their dog's loose. Tiger Star is evil. And there's a weird friction going on between Cinderpelt and Sandstorm for some reason. They're kind of like, I don't know what's wrong with them. I think they're like a little jealous of each other and Fireheart's attention. I'm not sure. So, let's see. What the heck? That's what I'm saying. I think there's going to be a gathering. That's where we left off. I stopped right before the gathering. Yeah. What? Backseat my rating way. Why don't you? I guess you could technically do that, couldn't you? You'd be like, actually, no. It's pronounced Freashkill, not Freshkill. Okay, I'm gonna read the last bit of the last chapter and then we shall begin. Both she-cats were being very polite to each other, but somehow Fireheart felt it wouldn't take much for them to unsheath their claws. He wondered why, then decided he didn't have time to worry about petty squabbles. We'll go and eat then. And afterward, you need to rest, Sandstorm told him. You've been on your paws since dawn. She gave him a nudge, propelling him towards the main clearing. Before he had taken more than a couple of paces, Cinderpelt called after him. Send some Freshkill for me and Speckletail, if you got the time. That is. Of course I got time. Fireheart felt completely baffled by the tension that chilled the air. And I'll see to it right away. Good. Cinderpelt gave him a curt nod, and Fireheart felt her blue gaze trained on his back all the way across the clearing. Chapter 10. The stars of Silverpelt blazed from a clear sky, and the full moon rode high. Fireheart crouched at the top of the hollow leading down to 4 trees. Beneath the 4 great oaks, the ground was carpeted with fallen leaves, glittering in the first frost of leaf-fall, black shapes of cats moving to and fro against the pale shimmer. This time, Bluestar had insisted on leading her clan to the gathering. Fireheart couldn't decide whether that was a good thing or not. True, now he didn't have to invent excuses for her, but he was also worried about what she might say. As ThunderClan's problems piled up, it was becoming more and more difficult to present a strong face to their rival clans, and his apprehension bit deeper when he admitted to himself that he could no longer trust his leader's judgment. That's right, also, Bluestar's been losing her mind. That's another update. He edged towards her, out of earshot of Cloudpaw and Mousefur, who were beside him. Bluestar, he murmured, what will you... As if she hadn't heard him, Bluestar signaled with her tail, and the ThunderClan cats sprang to their paws and raced down through the bushes into the hollow. Fireheart had no option but to follow. Before they left the camp, Bluestar had refused to talk about the coming gathering, and now his last chance to discuss it with her had gone. Down in the hollow, there were fewer cats than Fireheart had expected. He realized they were all from WindClan and ShadowClan. He spotted Tallstar and Tigerstar seated side by side at the base of the great rock. Bluestar walked straight past them, her tail as stiff as if she were advancing on an enemy. Without acknowledging them with so much as the flick of a whisker, she leapt up to the great rock and sat there, her gray-blue fur glowing in the moonlight. Fireheart took a deep breath and tried to calm the fears that welled inside him. Bluestar had already convinced herself that Tallstar was her enemy. To see the Wind Clan leader talking privately with Tigerstar, the traitor Bluestar feared the most, would make her sure that she was right. As he watched, Fireheart saw Tallstar lean over to Tigerstar and meow something. Tigerstar flicked his tail dismissively. Fireheart wondered if he should creep closer to listen to what they were saying. Before he could move, he felt a friendly nudge on his shoulder and looked around to see One Whisker, a warrior from Wind Clan. "Hi there," One Whisker meowed. "You remember who this is?" He pushed a young cat forward, a tabby with bright eyes and ears pricked with excitement. "This is Morningflower's kit," One Whisker explained. "He's my apprentice now. Gorsepaw, isn't he big now?" "Morningflower's kit, of course. I saw you at last gathering." Fireheart still found it hard to believe that this well-muscled apprentice was the same scrap of fur whom he had carried across the Thunderpath when he and Graystripe brought WindClan home. "Mother told me about you, Fireheart," Gorsepaw mewed shyly. "How you carried me and everything." "Well, I'm glad I don't have to carry you now," Fireheart replied. If you grow much more, you'll be able to join Lion Clan." Gorsepaw purred happily. Fireheart was sharply aware of the warm friendship that he felt for these cats, which had survived all the skirmishes and disagreements since that long journey. "We should be starting the meeting," One Whisker went on, "but there's no sign of RiverClan." The words were hardly out of his mouth when there was another stir among the bushes on the other side of the clearing. A group of RiverClan cats appeared, padding close together into the open. Stalking proudly at their head was Leopard Fur. "Where's Crooked Star?" One Whisker wondered out loud. "I heard he's ill," Fireheart meowed, realizing that he wasn't surprised to see Leopard Fur taking her leader's place. From what Graystripe had told him by the river half a moon ago, he hadn't expected the RiverClan leader to be well enough to attend a gathering. Leopard Fur walked straight towards the base of the great rock, where Tallstar and Tigerstar were sitting. She dipped her head courteously and settled down beside them. Fireheart was too far away to hear what they were saying, and he was distracted a moment later as a familiar gray warrior bounded across the clearing to his side. "Graystripe!" Fireheart gave a welcoming mew. "I thought you weren't allowed to come to gatherings." "I wasn't," replied Graystripe, touching noses with his friend, "but Stonefur said I should have the chance to prove my loyalty." "Stonefur?" Fireheart echoed. He had noticed both of Bluestar's kits, Stonefur and his sister, Mistyfoot. "It is Mistyfoot!" among the cats who followed Leopard Fur. "What's it got to do with him?" "Stonefur's our new deputy," meowed Graystripe. He frowned. "Oh, of course, you don't know. Crooked Star died 2 nights ago. Leopard Star is our leader now." "Leopard Star!" "Oh, dang. Tiger Star, Leopard Star. When's Tall Star gonna die?" Just kidding. Fireheart was silent for a moment, remembering the dignified old cat who had helped that ThunderClan through the fire. The news of Crooked Star's death didn't surprise him, but it still brought a pang of anxiety. Leopard Star would be a strong leader, good for RiverClan, but she had no love for ThunderClan. She's already started to reorganize the clan, even though it's barely a day since she went to the Moonstone to speak with StarClan. "Oh. Hi, Jacoby!" That was Graystripe. "She's already started to reorganize the clan, even though it's barely a day since she went to the Moonstone to speak to StarClan." Graystripe went on, pulling a face. "Supervising the apprentice training, ordering more patrols, and..." He broke off, his paws working on the ground in front of him. "Graystripe!" Fireheart was half alarmed by his friend's clear agitation. "What's the matter?" Graystripe lifted anguished yellow eyes to gaze at his friend. "There's something you ought to know, Fireheart." He took a quick glance around to make sure no RiverClan cats were within earshot. "Ever since the fire, Leopard Fur's been planning on how to get Sunning Rocks back." I don't think you should be telling me that," Fireheart stammered, staring at his friend in dismay. Sunning Rocks was a long-disputed territory on the border between ThunderClan and RiverClan. Oakheart and the former ThunderClan deputy, Redtail, had both died in battle over them. For Graystripe to tell Fireheart of his new leader's intentions was an act of betrayal that went completely against the warrior code. "I know, Fireheart," Graystripe couldn't meet his gaze, and his voice shook with the weight of what he was doing. I've tried to be loyal warrior of RiverClan. No cat could have tried harder. His voice was raising in desperation, but with a huge effort he managed to control himself and go on in a lower voice. But I can't sit by and do nothing while Leopardstar plans to attack ThunderClan. If it comes to a battle, I don't know what I'll do. Fireheart moved closer, trying to comfort the Grey Warrior. He had always known, ever since Graystripe had crossed the river, that sooner or later his friend would have to face the ordeal of fighting against his birth clan. Now it seemed as if that day had suddenly drawn closer. When is this attack gonna happen? He asked. Graystripe shook his head. I have no idea. Even if Leopardstar has decided, she wouldn't tell me. I only know about the plan from what the other warriors have said. But I'll see what I can find out, if you like. For a moment, Fireheart was excited by the thought of having a spy in the RiverClan camp. Then he realized what a fearful risk Graystripe would be taking. He couldn't put his friend in that much danger, or add the pain of his divided loyalties. Unless ThunderClan struck first, without waiting for Leopardstar to attack, which Fireheart didn't want to do, they would just have to deal with the threat when it rose. No, it's too dangerous, Fireheart replied. I'm grateful for the warning, but think what Leopardstar would do to you if she found out. She doesn't exactly like you as it is. I'll tell all the hunting patrols to keep checking Sunning Rocks for RiverClan scent and make sure our scent markings are strong there. Yowling from the top of the great rock interrupted him. He turned to see that the other 3 leaders had joined Bluestar, who still refused to look at Tigerstar, and were waiting to begin the meeting. When the cats had fallen silent, Tigerstar nodded to Leopardstar, indicating that she should speak first. The golden tabby took a place at the front of the rock and looked down. Our former leader, Crookedstar, has gone to join StarClan, she announced. He was a noble leader, and all his clan mourns his passing. I am leader of RiverClan now, and Stonefur is my deputy. Last night, I traveled to Highstones and received my 9 lives from StarClan. Congratulations, meowed Tigerstar, while Star mewed. Crookedstar would be missed by all clans, but may StarClan grant the RiverClan thrives under your leadership. Leopardstar thanked them and looked expectantly at Bluestar, but the ThunderClan leader was gazing down into the hollow. There was an expression of pride on her face, and when Fireheart followed her gaze, he saw that she was looking at Stonefur. The obvious admiration for her son shocked him, and his heart grew cold when he remembered that Tigerstar knew a pair of ThunderClan kits had once been taken by RiverClan. Fire couldn't help noticing that Tigerstar's gaze was trained on Bluestar, and the massive tabby had a thoughtful look on his face. What would it take for him to guess who the mother of those kits had been? I have one more piece of clan news, Leopardstar meowed, obviously deciding that she had waited long enough for Bluestar to speak. One of our elders, Greypool, is dead. Dang it, I was wrong. Okay, it wasn't Mossy Pool. It wasn't Mossy whatever. Cat, both of us were wrong. It was Misty Foot. Okay, I was right on that one. But Greypool. There was a pool in her name. Fireheart's ears pricked. He wondered what Mistyfoot and Graystripe had told their leader about Greypool's death, and if he had left any of his own scent on her body. Leopardstar could probably use that to accuse ThunderClan of killing the old cat, to give the clan an excuse to attack. But when Leopardstar went on, it was only to say, she was brave warrior and the mother of many kits. She paused to cast a sympathetic glance at Mistyfoot and Stonefur. Her clan mourns her, she finished. Fireheart relaxed, then felt himself tense again as Tigerstar stepped forward. Would the ShadowClan leader announce he knew about two of Greypool's kits? To his relief, Tigerstar made no mention of the secret. Instead, he gave news to ShadowClan's kits that had been made into apprentices in the birth of a new litter. Details that showed how ShadowClan was beginning to recover its strength, but nothing that suggested hostility to any other clan. Hope flared in Fireheart again. Perhaps there really was no need to keep worrying about a threat from Tigerstar. It would be a relief to forget him and concentrate on the lurking threat of the dog in the forest. Then Fireheart remembered that Shadow Clan's leader's brutal treatment of Greypool, which had led to her death, and all his suspicion remained. When Tiger Star had finished speaking... Yeah, Blue Star's here this time. She hasn't spoken yet, though. Tiger Star had finished speaking. Tall Star moved to take his place, but Blue Star thrust herself in front of the Wind Clan leader. I will speak next, she growled, giving Tall Star a hard stare. She stalked to the front of the rock. Cats of all the clan, she began, her voice coldly angry. I bring news of theft. Wind Clan warriors have been hunting in Thunder Clan territory. Fireheart's heart lurched as angry yowling broke out all over the hollow. Joshie, hi! The Wind Clan cats sprang to their paws, furiously denying the Thunder Clan leader's accusation. Cloudpaw scrambled around the two bigger warriors and came to a halt beside Fireheart, his blue eyes wide with shock and excitement. Wind Clan? He meowed. What you talking about? Be quiet, Fireheart snapped. He glanced at One Whisker, afraid that he might have overheard Cloudpaw's outburst, but the tappy warrior was on his paws, yowling defiance at Blue Star. Prove it, he called, his fur bristling. Prove that Wind Clan had taken so much as a mouse. I have proof. Blue Star's eyes blazed cold fire. Our patrols found remains of rabbits scattered not far from here. You call that proof? Tall Star shouldered his way forward to stand nose to nose with Blue Star. Did you see my cats in your territory? Did your patrols find Wind Clan's scent? I don't need to see or smell thieves to know what they have done, Blue Star retorted. Every cat knows that only Wind Clan hunts rabbits. Fireheart's muscles tense as he instinctively unsheathed his claws. All this is a pile of mouse dung, Tall Star insisted. His black and white fur was fluffed out, and his lips were drawn back in a snarl. Wind Clan have lost prey as well. We have found rabbit remains on our territory too, and there are far fewer rabbits than usual this season. I accuse you, Blue Star, of letting your warriors hunt on our land and making false accusations to cover up theft. That seems far more likely, Tiger Star put in, his amber eyes gleaming. Every cat knows that prey has been scarce on ThunderClan territory ever since the fire. Your clan is hungry, Blue Star, and some of your warriors know Wind Clan territory very well. Bruh. He is just happy to jump on the drama. Fireheart felt the Shadow Clan leader gaze rest on him, and knew Tiger Star meant him and Greystripe. Blue Star whipped around to face the Shadow Clan leader. Silence, she hissed. Stay away from me and my clan. This is no business of yours. It is business of every clan in the forest, Tiger Star replied calmly. The gathering is supposed to be a time of peace. If Star Clan are angered, we will all suffer. Star Clan! Blue Star spat back at him. Star Clan have turned away from us, and I will fight them if I have to. I care only for feeding my clan, and I will not stand by while other clans steal our prey. Her speech was almost drowned out by the shocked gaps of the cats listening below. Fireheart couldn't help glancing up to see if StarClan would show their fury by sending a cloud to cover the moon and end the gathering, as they had done once before. But the sky remained clear. Did that mean StarClan had accepted Blue Star's declaration of war? Greystripe nudged him. What's the matter with Blue Star? Does she want to pick a fight with Wind Clan? And what's all this about fighting StarClan? I don't know what she wants, Fireheart muttered. I think she's right about the rabbits. And who cares about a stupid old tradition says about keeping peace at the gatherings, meowed Cloudpaw. Let's face it, StarClan was just thought up by a leader to scare the other cats into being obedient. Cloudpaw! Fireheart shot his apprentice a disapproving glance, but there was no time to discuss his attitude toward their warrior ancestors. His heart thudded, as if he were about to leap into battle. There was no way of hiding Blue Star's madness, his ThunderClan and ThunderClan's vulnerability from the other clans now. Tall Star bristled with fury. So far, Leopard Star had not joined in the argument, but she wore the expression of a cat who was about to sink her teeth into a juicy piece of fresh kill. When the noise in the hollow had died down, Tall Star made himself heard. Blue Star, I swear by StarClan that no cat from Wind Clan is hunted in your territory. His tail lashed from side to side. But if you insist on fighting us, we will be ready. He retreated from the edge of the rock and turned his back on Blue Star, a pointed refusal to defend himself any further. Just now! Crooked Star not just now, 2 days ago, in book. Leopard Star just announced that she was made leader, and Stonefur is her deputy. When the noises in the hollow had died down, I read that. Before Blue Star could retaliate, Leopard Star stepped forward. The fire was a terrible misfortune, she meowed. Every cat in the forest knows this, but yours is not the only clan to suffer recently. Your forest will grow back as rich as prey as it ever was, but Two Legs have invaded our territory and they show no signs of leaving. Last Leaf Bear, the river was poisoned and cats who ate the fish fell ill. Who can guarantee it won't happen again? I cannot speak for Wind Clan's needs, but River Clan needs a better hunting ground even more than Thunder Clan. Oh God. A few River Clan cats yowled their agreement, and Fireheart's fur bristled with apprehension. He shot a glance at Grey Stripe, remembering his friend's warning about sunning rocks. The new River Clan leader meant to expand their territory, and the logical direction was across the river into Thunder Clan. The gorge cut her off from Wind Clan territory, and all her other borders were bounded by two-leg farms. But Blue Star had not understood the veiled threat. When the River Clan leader fell silent, she dipped her head graciously. You're right, Leopard Star, she meowed. River Clan has endured hard times, yet your cats are so strong and noble that I know you will survive. Leopard Star looked taken aback, as well as she might, Fireheart thought. The old Blue Star would never have missed the ominous promise in Leopard Star's words. Tiger Star took a step toward the Thunder Clan leader. Think carefully before you threaten Wind Clan, Blue Star, he warned. There will never be peace in the forest if... Blue Star bared her teeth and snarled at him, her fur bristling with fury. Don't talk to me about peace, she hissed. I told you to keep out of this, unless you're allying yourself with that thief over there. Fireheart watched Hellstar stalk over to Blue Star, and he guessed that the Wind Clan leader was barely managing not to spring at her throat. If you want to fight, you'll have one, Blue Star, he growled. Not waiting for a reply, he leapt down from the rock. Tiger Star exchanged a glance with Leopard Star, and both leaders followed, leaving Blue Star alone. Fireheart glanced at the sky again, hardly able to believe there was no sign from StarClan to show that they had seen the gathering descend into hostility. Did that mean StarClan wanted a war between the clans? As Blue Star scrambled down from the rock, Fireheart looked around for the other ThunderClan warriors. Cloudpaw, he instructed urgently, round up as many warriors as you can and find and send them to the base of the great rock. Blue Star will need an escort. His apprentice nodded and slipped away into the crowd. Fireheart saw Stonefur thrusting his way through the crowd towards Grey Stripe. Are you ready? The River Clan deputy meowed. Leopard Star wants to leave quickly. On my way, Grey Stripe mewed, springing to his paws. His voice shook as he added, Goodbye, Fireheart. Goodbye, Fireheart replied. There was so much more he wanted to say, but once again he had to face the fact that his best friend belonged to another clan, and the next time they could meet was in battle. Before the two River Clan cats turned away, he sought desperately for the right words to speak to Stonefur. Congratulations, he stammered at last. I was glad to hear Leopard Star chose you as the deputy. ThunderClan don't want trouble, you know. Stonefur met his eyes. Nor do I, he meowed, but sometimes trouble comes anyways. Fireheart watched them as they headed for the edge of the clearing and noticed with a jolt that another cat had his gaze fixed on the River Clan deputy. It was Tiger Star. Fireheart wondered what his thoughtful look meant. Was the Shadow Clan leader sizing up a future ally? Or could he possibly suspect that the Tom was one of the kits Greypool had told him of, the kits that came from ThunderClan? After all, it was common knowledge that Stonefur and Mistyfoot had been raised by Greypool. If so, it wouldn't be long before Tiger Star realized who their real mother was. Both Stonefur and Mistyfoot looked very much like Blue Star. Fireheart was so preoccupied that it was a few moments before he realized that the cat sitting in the shadow beside Tiger Star was Darkstripe. He told himself that it was only natural for Tiger Star's oldest friend to seek him out at a gathering, but Fireheart didn't like it. He still wasn't sure of Darkstripe's loyalty. Springing to his paws, he pushed through the cats towards them. As he approached, he heard Tiger Star meow to his companion. Are my kits doing well? Very well, the ThunderClan warrior replied warmly, growing big and strong, especially young Bramblekit. Darkstripe, Fireheart interrupted him. The gathering's over, or hadn't you noticed? Bluestar will want to leave shortly. Keep your fur on, Fireheart. Darkstripe's voice was an insolent drawl. I'm coming. Go on, Darkstripe. You mustn't keep your deputy waiting, meowed Tiger Star. He nodded to Fireheart. His amber gaze was carefully neutral. Fireheart padded across the clearing to join Bluestar, with Darkstripe just behind him. The rest of her warriors were clustered around her, shielding her from the hostile glares and mutters of WindClan. Her blue eyes still glowed with defiance, and Fireheart realized with the sinking heart that war between the two clans could not be far away. Everybody is against ThunderClan right now. Oh my god. ShadowClan, obviously. WindClan, now because of her accusation. And Leopard Fur already was like, you know what? This is the perfect opportunity to seize Sunning Rocks. Crazy. What's so funny is Booster, what the fuck? Poor Fireheart. You know that thing that she said? Where did she say it? Oh, when Leopard Star looked taken aback. When Blue Star was like, you're right, Leopard Star, River Clan has endured hard times. That part, when Leopard Star was like being, like, making a threat. Like Firestar's quest and whatnot. I don't know. I don't know if I will. There's just so many spin-offs. Anyways, when she said that, that's what I do to people when they're insulting me about something, but they're not obvious about it. I play dumb, and I somehow thank them in the process, and then they get too embarrassed to correct themselves. Once I was walking home, and I was on my phone, right? And some dude was like, kids these days, you know, kind of like everybody's all on their phone, whatever, and yada yada. And my reply was, I know, isn't it so cool? And he was like, huh? And I was like, I'm talking to someone across the world right now. Isn't that awesome? And he was so flustered and confused. He was like, oh yeah, that's cool. That's different than, like, you know, like if you're using it to, you know, communicate and stuff. And I was like, yeah, cool, okay. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, bye. And then I left and he left. It was so funny. I always think about that. That's the best way. That's how kill him with kindness really works. It isn't being like, it's being dumb. That's the secret. It's being dumb. Man, old people. That's why some people, like, they say if you have to ask someone, like, to explain a joke about why it's funny, they'll get flustered about explaining it, right? If they say something offensive and laugh, and you're just kind of like, sorry, I don't understand. Can you explain that to me? And then they have to explain the joke, but it's not really a joke. It's just like an offensive remark. And then you're kind of like, oh, that's not very nice. And then they're kind of like, it's a joke. You know, like, it's, you kind of like corner them into admitting it, or at least realizing what they did. Play dumb, my friends. That's the key to success. Chapter 11. Wait, hold on. My mom texted me. Okay, she replied. She said maybe, guys, maybe. Not that you guys can have my hot and sour soup, but you can think of me. Think of me eating it. Chapter 11. The sun was rising over the trees as Fireheart emerged from the warrior's den. Shaking a scrap of dead leaf from his fur, he took a deep breath of the crisp air and extended his forelegs into a long stretch. After the previous... Oh my god, wait! You'd be so funny if all these cats came to attack ThunderClan, but there were... The dog was there. And the dog started going crazy on all the other clans. That'd be so funny. I can't actually remember if that's what happens, but that'd be really funny. I think it should happen. You had a guard dog this whole time? Yes. Fake sour soup. After the previous night's gathering, he was almost surprised to see life in the camp going on as usual. Ashpaw and Cloudpaw were busily patching the outer walls with twigs. Goldenflower and Willowpelt were watching their kits just outside the nursery, where Brightpaw had stopped to play with them, and Whitestorm was padding into the clearing with his jaws full of fresh kill. Fireheart could sense tension in the air, but so far none of his fears of attack seemed to have come to anything. He looked around for Sandstorm, who had led the dawn patrol, but she didn't seem to be back yet. She had not been among the cats who had gone into the gathering, and Fireheart desperately wanted to talk to her about what had happened. Fireheart! It was Bluestar. Fireheart swung around to see his leader trotting across the clearing from her den. Yes, Bluestar? What is it? Bluestar jerked her head. Come to my den. We need to talk. As Fireheart followed her, he noticed her jerky steps and twitching tail. She looked like a cat about to launch herself into battle, yet there were no enemies in sight. Reaching her den, the blue-gray she-cat padded across to her bedding and sat there facing Fireheart. You heard that hypocrite Tallstar last night, she hissed. He refused to admit that his cats have been stealing our prey, so there's only one thing for ThunderClan to do. We must attack. Fireheart stared at her, jaws gaping. But Bluestar, he stammered. We can't do that. Our clan isn't strong enough. He couldn't help remembering that they would have 4 extra warriors by now if Bluestar had agreed to promote the apprentices, but he didn't dare mention that to her. We can't afford to have warriors injured or maybe killed. Bluestar fixed her eyes on him in the look of fierce hostility. Are you saying that ThunderClan is too weak to defend itself? Defending ourselves is very different from launching an attack, Fireheart meowed desperately. Besides, there's no real proof that WindClan stole... Bluestar bared her teeth, her fur bristling as she rose to her paws and took a threatening step towards Fireheart. Are you questioning me? She snarled. With an effort, Fireheart stood his ground. I don't want needless bloodshed, he told her quietly. All the signs tell us that there's a dog loose in the forest, and that's what's been making the rabbits. And I tell you, the dogs don't wander alone. They come and go with their 2 legs. Then where did the dog scent come from? Silence! Bluestar lashed out with one paw, barely missing Fireheart's nose. He forced himself to stand still. We will travel tonight and attack WindClan at dawn. Fireheart's heart lurched. It was an honor for a warrior to fight for his clan, but never before had he been faced with such an unjust battle. He did not want to shed ThunderClan or WindClan blood for no good reason. Do you hear me, Fireheart? Bluestar demanded. You will choose the warriors and give them their orders. They must be ready by moonset. Her eyes were blue flames. Fireheart almost felt they could sear him to ash, just as the fire had destroyed the forest. Yes, Bluestar, but... he began. Are you afraid of WindClan? The old leader spat. Or are you so used to cringing before StarClan that you won't defy them and fight for the rights of your clan? She paced to one side of her den, spun around, and paced back again, thrusting out her muzzle towards her deputy. You disappoint me. You, out of all my warriors, how can I believe you will fight with all your strength when you're questioning my order like this? She hissed. You leave me no choice, Fireheart. I will lead this attack myself. Objections raced through Fireheart's mind. Bluestar was growing old and losing strength. She was on her last life. She wasn't thinking clearly. But in the face of her fury, he could voice none of them. Instead, he dipped his head respectfully. If you wish, Blue Star. Then go and do as I ordered. She kept that fiery gaze trained on him as he backed out of the den. You will come with us, but remember that I will be watching you, she growled after him. In the clearing outside, Fireheart shivered as if he was just dragged out of icy waters. His duty was to choose the warriors for the attack on WindClan and tell them what Blue Star had ordered so that they would be ready to leave after moonset. Yet every hair on his pelt protested against this. A dog had stolen the rabbits, not WindClan. It could not be the will of StarClan to attack an innocent clan. Blue Star was simply wrong. Fireheart found his paws were taking him to Cinderpelt's den. Perhaps she could advise him. The medicine cat's wisdom and her special bond with StarClan might help her see a way forward more clearly than he could. But when he reached Cinderpelt's clearing and called out for her, there was no reply. Fireheart stuck his head in a little ways into the cleft in the rock and saw that the den was empty, except for the neat piles of herbs stacked along the one side. As he pushed his way out of the fern tunnel, not sure what to do now, he caught sight of Thornpaw, padding past with loads of moss for the elders' bedding. The apprentice dropped his burden when he saw the deputy and meowed, Cinderpelt's out collecting herbs, Fireheart. Where? Fireheart asked. If she was near camp, he could go find her. But Thornpaw shrugged. Dunno, sorry. He picked up the moss and went on. Fireheart stood motionless for a few moments, his head spinning with fear and confusion. He could not ask any of the other clats for advice, because a deputy should never question his leader's orders. He could not even talk to Sandstorm, much as he wanted to, because she was bound by the warrior code to obey her leader. There was only one hope left. Slowly, he padded over to the warrior's den, meeting Brindleface on her way out. I'm gonna catch up on some sleep, he explained in answer to her inquiring look. I want to be fit for a night patrol. He couldn't bring himself to tell her what was really planned for that night. Brindleface's eyes softened with sympathy. You look a bit tired, she meowed. You're working too hard, Fireheart. She gave his ear a quick lick and padded off towards the pile of fresh kill. To Fireheart's relief, no other cats were inside the den, and he did not have an answer to any more questions as he curled himself deeply into the moss and fern. If he could just sleep a while, he might be able to meet with Spotted Leaf and ask her for guidance. Then he remembered his previous dream, when he had searched for Spotted Leaf in the dark and fearful forest and failed to find her. Oh, Spotted Leaf, come to me now, he murmured. I need you. I have to know what StarClan wants me to do. Fireheart found himself standing on the border of WindClan territory and looked across the stretch of bare moorland. A stiff breeze rippled over the grass, blowing through his fur. The moor was bounded by an eerie light, hiding the horizon and the land behind Fireheart. He looked back, expecting to see the oaks and 4 trees, though he could not remember traveling through the forest. But there was nothing there but the pale yellow glow. No cats were in sight. Spotted Leaf? He mewed uncertainly. There was no reply, but he thought he caught a faint trace of a sweet scent that always announced her presence. He sniffed, raising his head and parting his jaws so that he could drink in the beloved smell. Spotted Leaf, he repeated. Please come. I need you so much. A sudden warmth crept over him. A soft voice murmured, I am here, Fireheart. He sensed that Spotted Leaf was somewhere behind him, and that if he turned his head, he would see her. But he could not move. It was as if his cold jaws were gripping him, keeping his gaze fixed on the windswept moorland. He stood rigid. Fireheart gradually realized that Spotted Leaf was not alone. Another scent wafted over him, painful in its familiarity. Yellowfang? He whispered. Is that you? A faint breath stirred his pelt, and he thought he could hear Yellowfang's rusty purr. Oh, Yellowfang, he exclaimed. I've missed you so much. Are you okay? Have you seen how well Cinderpelt is doing? The words spilled out of him in his joy at the reunion with his old friend, but there was no reply. The Fireheart thought the purring grew stronger. Then Spotted Leaf's voice whispered softly in his ears. I have brought you here for a reason, Fireheart. Look at this place. Remember it. This is where a battle will not be fought, and blood will not be spilled. Tell me how to stop it, Fireheart pleaded, knowing that she spoke of Bluestar's planned raid on the Wind Clan camp. But there was nothing more, only a gentle sigh that faded and became one with the wind. The paralysis that had gripped Fireheart released him, and he whipped around, but Spotted Leaf and Yellowfang had vanished. He drank in the air, desperate for the last trace of their scent, but there was nothing. Spotted Leaf, he wailed. Yellowfang, don't go! The light began to change, became the ordinary sunlight of morning in Leaffall, but instead of the moorland Fireheart saw above him in a ragged pattern of branches against the sky, the fire-damaged covering of the warrior's den, he lay on his side among the moss, panting. Fireheart? An anxious voice came from just beside him as he turned his head to see Sandstorm. She licked his fur around his ear. Are you all right? Yes, I'm fine. Fireheart dragged himself into a sitting position and flicked his ears to shake off the clinging moss. Just a dream, that's all. I've been looking for you, Sandstorm went on. We didn't see anything suspicious on the Dawn Patrol. Mossford told me what happened at the gathering, and the pile of fresh kill is practically all gone. I thought we could go out and hunt. I can't. Not just now, Sandstorm. I've things to do. But if you could take a patrol out, that would be great. Sandstorm gazed at him, the sympathetic look in her eyes fading. Well, okay, if you're too busy. She sounded offended, but Fireheart didn't know how he could explain. I'll get Brindleface and Brinkenfur to come. She rose to her paws and stalked out without looking back at him. She's so sassy! Fireheart licked his paws and rubbed it over his face, clinging to the precious memory of his dream. A battle will not be fought, and blood will not be spilled, he repeated to himself. Was Spotted Leaf trying to tell him not to worry, that somehow StarClan would stop the fighting? Or did she mean that it was up to him to see that no blood was spilled? Fireheart was tempted to leave it all in the paws of StarClan. What could he do, when his leader had given him her orders? But if he obeyed Bluestar, wouldn't he be going against the will of StarClan? And even more, against all his instincts of what was right for his clan? Fireheart made up his mind. Whatever he had to do, ThunderClan must not fight WindClan. Chapter 12. Oops. Fireheart padded swiftly out of camp, hoping no other cats would see him and ask where he was going. The warrior code said that a clan leader's orders should be obeyed without question. Until now, Fireheart had always accepted that. He had never imagined that he would ever disobey Bluestar, and yet the time had come when he must challenge her orders or watch the destruction of his clan. The only way he could see of avoiding the battle was for Tallstar and Bluestar to meet together and talk about the evidence of prey theft in both their territories. Once Bluestar understood that WindClan was suffering in just the same ways as ThunderClan, Fireheart was sure she would call off the attack. He did not know what Bluestar would do to him afterwards if she realized that he had gone to see Tallstar without her permission. He just hoped she would eventually understand it was for the good of her clan. White hair. At the entrance to the Gorse Tunnel, Fireheart took a last look around at camp. For a moment, he watched Brightpaw, practicing a hunting crouch all by herself outside the apprentice's den. She crept lightly up on a dead leaf and pounced on it, trapping it with outstretched paws. Well done, Fireheart called. Brightpaw looked up, her eyes glowing. Thank you, Fireheart! Fireheart nodded to her, then turned and headed through the Gorse Tunnel. The short meeting had strengthened his resolve, for the eager young apprentices represented all that was important within the clan. Fireheart knew that he could not let that be destroyed. By sun-high, Fireheart was approaching the stream that lay on the route to 4 trees. He stopped for a moment to rest. In his confusion and anxiety, he had not taken time to eat before he left camp, and a rustle in the undergrowth reminded him of how hungry he was. He dropped into the hunter's crouch, only to realize a couple of heartbeats later that the sounds were not made by prey. He caught a glimpse of a familiar dark pelt and breathed in the scent of ThunderClan cats. Puzzled, Fireheart pressed himself to the ground behind a clump of fern. He had an order to patrol in this direction, so why were his clan cats here now? Then the undergrowth parted and Darkstripe emerged, meowing sharply over his shoulder. Follow me. Try to keep up, can't you? Two small shapes appeared out of the break-in. Fireheart's eyes widened in surprise as he recognized Goldenflower's two kits. Bramblekit bounced into the open, batting a fallen leaf, and Twinykit followed more slowly. I'm tired. My paws ache, the little tabby kit complained. What, a strong kit like you? Darkstripe meowed. Don't be silly. It's not far now. What isn't far? Fireheart wondered in alarm. What are you doing out here, and why are you taking these kits? He expected to see Goldenflower with them. Surely her kits had never been this far from the nursery before, but she did not appear. Bramblekit scrambled over to his sister and gave her a nudge. Come on, it'll be worth it, he urged. Both kits hurried after Darkstripe to a shallow place where they crossed the stream, squealing in fear and excitement as the water swirled around their paws. On the far side of the stream, Darkstripe veered away from the route that led to 4 trees and headed instead along a much narrower path that twisted under the trees. A burst of outrage shook Fireheart. He knew exactly where that path led. Darkstripe was taking the kits towards the border with ShadowClan. Fireheart had to wait for them to climb the slope beyond the stream before he dared to emerge from the ferns to follow. By the time he caught up, they were approaching the border. The strong reek of ShadowClan reached Fireheart, and he saw the kits stop and start sniffing the air. Yuck! What is that? Twinykit squealed. Is it a fox? Asked Bramblekit. No, it's ShadowClan's set, Darkstripe replied. Come on, we're nearly there. He led the crits across the border, Twinykit complaining that she was getting the horrid smell all over her paws. Growing angrier still, Fireheart slid into the shelter of the hawthorn bush just outside the ThunderClan side, where he could watch without being seen. Close by, Darkstripe had come to a halt. The kits flopped down on the grass, exhausted, only to spring to their paws again a moment later when a clump of bracken rustled and another cat stepped out into the open. The newcomer was Tigerstar. Fireheart froze, though he was hardly surprised. He had guessed that Darkstripe had been hoping to curry a favor with Tigerstar by bringing his kits to see him, but the ShadowClan leader's prompt appearance suggested that this meeting had been arranged all along. Fireheart wondered if Goldenflower knew about this. She was not here with the kits, so perhaps she didn't even know that Darkstripe had taken them away. She might just think they had gone missing. She must be frantic, Fireheart thought. He tensed his muscles, ready to leap out and confront Darkstripe, but he stayed in his hiding place and made himself concentrate on what was happening in front of him. Tigerstar padded forward, his muscles rippling under his dark tabby pelt, until he stood in front of his 2 kits. For a moment he inspected them, and then bent his head to touch noses, first with Bramblekit and then with Twinykit. Even though they could never have seen such a massive cat before, both kits stood bravely before him and met his gaze without flinching. Do you know who I am? Meowed Tigerstar. Darkstripe said he would take us to meet our father, replied Bramblekit. Are you our father? Twinykit added. You smell a bit like us. Tigerstar nodded. I am. The kits exchanged a wondering glance as Darkstripe mewed. This is Tigerstar, the leader of ShadowClan. Their eyes grew huge, and Bramblekit breathed, Wow, you're really a clan leader? When Tigerstar dipped his head in agreement, Twinykit mewed excitedly. Why can't we come and live with you in your can? You must have a really nice den. Tigerstar shook his head. Your place is with your mother for now, he told them. But that doesn't mean I'm not proud of you. They seem fine, strong kits, he meowed to Darkstripe. When will they be apprentices? In a moon or so, replied Darkstripe. It's a pity I have an apprentice already, or I could mentor one of them myself. Fireheart's claws dug into the ground as a jolt of anger shot through him. Bluestar and I decided who the mentors will be, not you, Darkstripe. He almost hissed the words out. You're the last cat we would choose, he added silently. Tigerstripe turned his gaze back to his kits. Can you hunt? He asked them. Can you fight? Do you want to be good warriors? Both of the kits nodded vigorously. I'm going to be the best warrior in the clan, Bramblekit boasted. Tawny-Kit refused to be outdone. And I'll be the best hunter. Good, good. Tigerstar gave each kit a quick lick on the head. Fireheart couldn't help remembering Greystripe and how his friend had left the clan of his birth so that he could stay with his kits he loved. Was it possible that Tigerstar was suffering just as much as being parted from Bramblekit and Twinykit? Then Fireheart's blood ran cold as Brambleclit asked, "Please, Tiger Star, why are you the leader of Shadow Clan when our mother was the Thunder Clan cat?" They don't know? Tiger Star asked Gray Stripe. The warrior shook his head. "Well then," Tiger Star meowed, turning back to the kits. "This is a long story. Sit down and I'll tell you." What is he going to tell them? Fireheart realized this was the moment when he had to interrupt. The last thing he wanted was for Tiger Star to tell the kids a biased account of how he came to leave ThunderClan. One thing was certain. Tiger Star would never admit that he had been a murderer and a traitor. Raising to his paws, Fireheart stepped out of the shelter of the hawthorn bush. "Good day, Tiger Star," he meowed. "You're a long way from your camp. And so are you, Darkstripe." His tone sharpened. "What are you doing here with these kits?" As he padded up to join them, he had the satisfaction of realizing that both Tiger Star and Darkstripe were dumbfounded by his appearance. For a heartbeat, they both gaped at him, while the kits bounced across the grass to meet him. "This is our father," Tawny Kit announced excitedly. "We came all the way from camp to see him." "Why did no cat tell us that he was a leader of a clan?" Brambleclit piped up. Fireheart did not want to answer that question. Instead, he confronted Darkstripe with his eyes narrowed. "Well?" "How did you know we were here?" Darkstripe blustered. "I saw you cross the stream. You were making enough racket to wake the whole forest." "Fireheart!" Tiger Star dipped his head, the courteous greeting of a leader to the deputy of another clan. There was no hostility in his tone. "Blame me, not Darkstripe. I wanted to see my kits. You wouldn't deny me that, surely." "That's all very well," Fireheart replied in confusion. "But Darkstripe shouldn't have taken them without permission. It's dangerous to let kits wander so far from their camp. Especially with that dog loose in the forest," he added to himself. "They're not wandering. They're with me," Darkstripe pointed out. "What if a hawk attacked? There's still little cover in some parts of the forest. Have you forgotten Snowkit?" One of the kids let out a whimper, and Fireheart stopped. He didn't want to frighten them. "Take them back to camp, Darkstripe, now." Darkstripe exchanged a glance with Tiger Star and shrugged. To the kits, he meowed. "Come on. Fireheart has spoken. We must obey." The two kits backed away from their father and followed Darkstripe as he set off back to camp. "Say goodbye to your father before you go," Fireheart meowed, forcing himself to speak in a friendly tone. "You'll see him again when you're apprentices and can go to gatherings." Both kits turned and mewed goodbye. "Goodbye," Tiger Star replied. "Work hard, and I shall be proud of you." He and Fireheart stood side by side as Darkstripe led the kits back down the slope and across the stream. When they had disappeared into the undergrowth, Tiger Star meowed. "Take care of those kits, Fireheart. I'll be keeping an eye on them." Fireheart's heart was pounding. When he had exposed the former deputy's treachery, Tiger Star had threatened to kill him. Now they were alone once more, with no help nearby for Fireheart if Shadow Clan leader attacked. Fireheart's muscles tensed, but Tiger Star made no move towards him. "You'll see they're looked after," Fireheart meowed at last. "I'm sure they'll be loyal to their clan. ThunderClan takes care of all its kits." "Really?" Tiger Star narrowed his ambered eyes. "I'm glad to hear it." Tiger Star knew about the two kits who had been taken to Greypool, Fireheart remembered with a jolt. He waited for the Shadow Clan leader to challenge him about them, but Tiger Star did not question him. Though his knowing expression chilled Fireheart, it was as though he was well aware that Fireheart could tell him more. Instead, Tiger Star dipped his head again and mewed. "We shall meet at the next gathering. I must return to my clan now." Then he turned and padded away. Fireheart made sure that the Shadow Clan leader had really gone before he turned away too, following the border towards 4 trees. Much as he hated to admit it, he couldn't see that Darkstripe had done any real harm by taking his kits out of the nursery. Fireheart would have to tell them eventually that their father was the leader of Shadow Clan, and Tiger Star himself had behaved with more restraint than Fireheart would have believed possible. Firmly, he put the episode out of his mind. Time was running out. Before sunset, Fireheart knew he must speak with Tallstar and find another way to solve the dispute over stolen prey. Chapter 13. Sass! Fireheart darted from one clump of gorse to the next as he crossed the moor towards WindClan camp. He ran with his belly brushing the turf, trying to stay out of sight and longing for the thick undergrowth of his own territory. The last time he had visited the camp, when ThunderClan helped WindClan in a battle against the other two clans, there had been no need to hide. Now he dared not show himself until he reached Tallstar, or at least met with one of the cats he could call his friend. If any of them were still friendly, after the recent disastrous gathering, when clan patrols had attacked him on their territory before, they would be even more hostile now. The scent of WindClan was all around him, but so far he hadn't seen any cats. The sun had nearly finished crossing the sky. Fireheart tried not to think about that. He came close to panic when he remembered how little time was left before Bluestar would launch her attack. He was crossing one of the shallow moorland streams, bounding from rock to rock, when a stronger scent of WindClan cats flooded over him, along with the scent of rabbit. Fireheart's belly growled in complaint, but he had to ignore it. There was no way he could take WindClan's prey now, and it smelt as if there was hunting patrol not far behind anyways. Diving into a clump of bracken on the water's edge, he peered out cautiously to spot the source of the scent. 3 cats were making their way upstream towards him. At the front of the patrol was an old friend, One Whisker, and Fireheart's heart lifted. Gorsepaw was with his mentor. They were both carrying rabbits, but to Fireheart's dismay, the third cat was Mudclaw, the dark, molted warrior who had stopped Bluestar when she tried to cross WindClan territory to get to Highstones. This cat would never allow Fireheart to bring his message to Tallstar. But it seemed that luck, or the favor of StarClan, was on Fireheart's side. With their jaws full of prey, the WindClan cats were unable to pick up the ThunderClan scent, and they passed within a couple of tail lengths of him. Then Gorsepaw, who was struggling with a rabbit almost as big as he was, stopped to adjust his grip and fell behind the others. Fireheart spotted his chance. Gorsepaw! The young cat raised his head, ears pricked. Over here! In the bracken! Gorsepaw turned, and his eyes stretched wide when he saw Fireheart poking his head out from the rusty fronds. His mouth opened, but Fireheart urgently signaled him to keep silent. Listen, Gorsepaw, he meowed. I want you to tell One Whisker I'm here, but don't let Mudclaw know, okay? His apprentice hesitated, looking troubled, but Fireheart added urgently, I have to talk to him. It's important for both our clans. You've got to trust me. The desperation in his tone reached Gorsepaw, who paused a moment longer and then gave a quick nod. All right, Fireheart, wait here. He picked up his rabbit again and hurried to catch up with the 2 warriors. Fireheart crept deeper into the bracken and crouched there, waiting. Before long, he heard another cat approach his hiding place and murmur, Fireheart, is that you? To his relief, Fireheart recognized One Whisker's voice. He peered warily out of the shelter of the bracken and straightened up when he saw his friend was alone. Thanks, StarClan, he exclaimed. I thought you weren't coming. This better be good, Fireheart. Ooh. He gave Fireheart a hard stare, with no trace of his usual friendliness. It took me a while to get rid of Mudclaw. If you knew you were on our territory, you'd be crow food, and you know it. He padded up to Fireheart. I'm sticking my neck out for you, he growled. I hope it's worth it. It is, I promise. I've come to tell you something. I've got to speak to Tallstar. It's important, he added, as One Whisker went on staring at him. For a few heartbeats, he was afraid that his friend was going to refuse, or even attack him and drive him off WindClan territory. Then One Whisker spoke, and to Fireheart's relief he sounded less hostile, as if he were beginning to realize the urgency of Fireheart's request. What's this about? Tallstar will have my fur off if I take a ThunderClan cat into camp without a very good reason. I can't tell you, One Whisker. I can't tell any cat except Tallstar, but believe me, it's for the good of both our clans. Once again, One Whisker hesitated. I wouldn't do this for any cat but you, Fireheart. He meowed at last. Spinning around, he beckoned with his tail and bounded off across the moor. Fireheart sprang after him. One Whisker halted at the top of the slope, looking down into WindClan camp. The rays of the dying sun cast long shadows over the gorse bushes that lined the sides of the hollow. As Fireheart and One Whisker stood there, a patrol slipped past them. Fireheart was conscious of their stares, where curiosity mingled with antagonism. Okay, hands. Okay, Mika, I'm gonna hydrate. I drank a lot of sips for you. Come on. Oh, that was not One Whisker's voice. Come on, meowed One Whisker. He led the way through the tough stems of gorse until they came to the sandy clearing in the middle of the bushes. As he emerged through the narrow gap in the thorns, Fireheart saw Tallstar crouched at the side of the clearing near a pile of fresh kill. More WindClan warriors clustered around him. It was the clan deputy, Deadfoot, who looked up first and then nudged his leader, mewing something rapidly into his ear. Tallstar rose and padded across the clearing to where Fireheart and One Whisker waited. Deadfoot hovered at his shoulder, and the other cats followed close behind. Fireheart recognized Barkface, the WindClan medicine cat, and Mudclaw, his lip drawn back in a snarl. Well, One Whisker, Tallstar's voice was level, giving nothing away. Why have you brought Fireheart here? One Whisker dipped his head. He says he has to talk to you. And that just means he can stroll into our camp? Mudclaw spat. He's from an enemy clan. Tallstar waved his tail at Mudclaw, a sign for silence, while his eyes looked deep into Fireheart's. I'm here, he mewed simply. Talk. Fireheart glanced around him. The crowd was growing larger as more WindClan cats heard about the intruder in their midst and came out to see what was going on. What I have to say is not for all ears, Tallstar, he stammered. For a heartbeat, he thought he heard a faint growl in Tallstar's throat, but then the WindClan leader nodded slowly. Very well. We will go to my den. Deadfoot, you come with us. And you, One Whisker. Turning, he stalked towards the rock at the far end of the clearing, his long tail held high, while two warriors herded Fireheart after him. The WindClan leader's den was sheltered under a deep overhang in the rock, on the side away from main camp. Tallstar entered and made himself comfortable in a nest of heather, facing Fireheart. Well, he meowed. Shadows were gathered in the den, and Fireheart could feel rather than see the shapes of the cats who guarded him. Tension crackled between them, as if they were waiting for the tiniest excuse to attack him. During his journey across the moor, he had thought hard about what he would say, but he still didn't know whether he would manage to convince Tallstar that there was a way to avoid Bluestar's attack. You know that Bluestar is unhappy about the loss of prey, Fireheart began. Instantly, the fur on the WindClan leader's shoulders began to bristle. WindClan did not steal prey from ThunderClan, he snapped. We found scattered remains too. Oh, we found scattered remains too, Deadfoot asserted, limping forward and thrusting his muzzle close to Fireheart's. Are you sure ThunderClan haven't been stealing prey from us? Fireheart forced himself not to flinch. No, he protested. I don't believe any cats have stolen prey. What happened to it then? One Whisker asked. I think there's a dog living in the forest. We've smelt it and found its dung. A dog? One Whisker echoed. His eyes narrowed thoughtfully. What, loose from its two legs? Certain of it, Fireheart meowed. Could be, mewed Tallstar. To Fireheart's relief, the fur on his shoulders was lying flat. We've certainly sent a dog in our territory recently, but then they're always up here with their two legs. Sounding more confident, he went on. Yes, it could be a dog killing the rabbits. I'll see that our patrols keep a lookout. But you didn't come all this way to tell us that, Deadfoot meowed. So what's on your mind, Fireheart? Fireheart took a deep breath. He didn't want to betray Bluestar by telling Tallstar her plans to attack, but he wanted to suggest that the WindClan leader at the future battle could be avoided if he would just talk to Bluestar about the prey theft. I can't convince Bluestar about the dog, he explained. She feels threatened by WindClan, and sooner or later this will all end in battle unless we do something. He could not tell the WindClan warriors how much sooner the battle would take place if he failed now. Cats will be injured, killed even, for nothing. Then what do you expect me to do? Tallstar asked testily. She's your leader, Fireheart. This is your problem. Fireheart dared to take a couple steps towards the WindClan leader. I've come to ask you to hold a meeting with Bluestar. If you could discuss things in private, you might be able to make peace. Bluestar wants a meeting? It was Deadfoot who spoke, sounding disbelieving. Last time we saw her, she looked like she would claw our throats out. This isn't Bluestar's idea. It's mine, Fireheart confessed. All three WindClan cats stared at him. Finally, it was One Whisker who broke the silence. Does that mean you're going behind your leader's back? It's for the good of both our clans, he insisted. He half expected to be chased out of camp, but to his relief, Tallstar looked thoughtful. I'd certainly rather talk than fight, the leader meowed. But how are you going to arrange it? How willing to listen will she be if she knows that you talked to us first without her knowledge? Not waiting for Fireheart to reply, he went on. Perhaps it would be would be best if I sent a messenger to ask her to meet me in 4 trees. But can you guarantee the safety of a WindClan cat on ThunderClan territory? Fireheart was silent, which was answer in itself. Tallstar shrugged. I'm sorry, Fireheart. I won't risk one of my warriors. If Bluestar decides that she's willing to talk, she knows where to find us. One Whisker, you better take Fireheart back to 4 trees. Wait! Fireheart protested. An idea had just slid into his mind, or perhaps StarClan had sent it to him. I know what you can do. Telstar's eyes gleamed in the gathering darkness. What? Do you know the cat Ravenpaw? He's a loner who lives on a farm at the edge of your territory, near Highstones. He sheltered us on the journey to bring you home, remember? I know him, meowed One Whisker. He's a decent cat, even if he's not a warrior. What about him? Fireheart turned to him eagerly. He could take the message for you, and Bluestar has given him permission to enter ThunderClan territory, as he used to be a ThunderClan cat. Tallstar shifted in his nest of heather. That sounds like it might work. What do you think, Deadfoot? A reluctant rumble of agreement came from the deputy. Then go! Fireheart urged One Whisker, realizing once again how quickly time was running out. Go now. Tell him to ask Bluestar to meet Tallstar at dawn at 4 trees. There's barely enough time for One Whisker to find Ravenpaw, and for Ravenpaw to carry the message all the way to ThunderClan camp before Bluestar would be leaving to launch her attack. Fireheart sent a silent prayer to StarClan that One Whisker would be able to find Ravenpaw easily on the 2-leg farm. One Whisker glanced at his leader, who nodded. At once, the blue-brown tabby warrior turned around and disappeared into the darkness outside the den. Tallstar gazed at Fireheart with narrowed eyes. Why do I think there's something you're not telling me? He mewed. To Fireheart's relief, he did not press for any more answers. It's time for you to go, he continued. Deadfoot, escort him off our territory. And Fireheart, I'll be at 4 trees at dawn, but that's all I can do. If Bluestar wants peace, she must be there. 4 trees at dawn, Fireheart repeated, and followed the deputy out. I can't remember what happens. Fireheart made good time back to 4 trees and onto his own territory. He had not eaten since before the gathering on the previous night. His belly ached with hunger, and he was beginning to feel shaky on his paws, so he forced himself to stop and hunt. He paused to listen when he reached the stream, and his ears caught sound of a vole scuffling among the reeds at the water's edge. Lifting his head to taste the air, Fireheart pinpointed the creature more by scent than sight. He pounced, and his claws sank into his prey. Gulping it down, he felt strength flow back into him, and he headed for his own camp with renewed speed. The moon had risen above the trees by the time he slipped down the ravine, reminding Fireheart that he had until moonset to choose warriors for Bluestar's planned attack. His optimism was returning. Tallstar had agreed to talk. Surely Bluestar would realize that war with WindClan was unnecessary. He had almost reached the entrance to the clearing when he heard a cat call his name. He turned to see Whitestorm following him up the ravine and at the head of the evening patrol. Brightpaw, Cloudpaw, and Frostfur were with him. Everything quiet? Fireheart asked as Whitestorm came up to him. Quiet as a sleeping kid, the White Warrior replied. No sign of the dog. Maybe it's 2-Legs found it, after all. Maybe. Fireheart meowed. Suddenly, he decided to tell Whitestorm where he had been. He wanted at least one warrior to share the hope that he might not have to go against battle with WindClan. Actually, Whitestorm, I wanted a word with you about that. Could you give me a moment? Of course, if you don't mind my eating while I listen. Whitestorm set the 2 apprentices to go take prey for themselves. They bounded over to the pile of fresh kill and fell into a friendly scuffle over a magpie. Frostfur padded off to the warrior's den with a vole, while Whitestorm chose a squirrel for himself and carried it over to a quiet corner by the newly sprouting nettle patch. Fireheart followed him. Whitestorm, Bluestar sent for me this morning. Quietly, he told the older warrior the whole story, from Bluestar's obsessive belief that WindClan had been stealing prey and her order to attack, to Fireheart's decision to ask WindClan for a meeting. What? Bluestar stared at Fireheart in disbelief. You went behind Bluestar's back? His voice failed, and he shook his head in confusion. Fireheart immediately felt defensive. What else could I do? You could have consulted me. The fur on Whitestorm's shoulder bristled angrily. Or some of the other senior warriors. We could have helped you find a solution. I'm sorry. Fireheart's heart was pounding. I didn't want anyone else to get in trouble. I did what I thought was best. It was because of the warrior code that he had acted alone, knowing that he could not ask any other cat to challenge Bluestar's orders like that. Whitestorm's gaze was intensely thoughtful. I think we need to tell other warriors about this, he meowed at last. They'll need to be ready for Bluestar's attack in case Ravenpaw doesn't get here. And even if Bluestar agrees to meet Tallstar, she might want a patrol behind her. I'd bet a moon's worth of dawn patrols that Tallstar guesses something's up. We can't be sure he won't ambush us. Fireheart nodded respectfully. You're right, Whitestorm. I trust them, but we should be prepared. I'll find some apprentices to guard the camp, Whitestorm meowed. You gather the warriors. Fireheart ran across the clearing to the warriors' den. Most of them were already there, curled up in their nests, asleep. Fireheart prodded Sandstorm with a paw to rouse her. She blinked up at him. What is it? Wake up the others, please, Sandstorm, Fireheart meowed. Whitestorm and I have something important to tell everyone. Sandstorm scrambled to her paws. What do you mean, something important? It's the middle of the night. Fireheart went out again without answering, to look for the remaining warriors. He found Brindleface visiting the queens in the nursery, and Mousefur coming into camp with a jaw full of fresh kill after a late-night patrol. He wondered whether he ought to tell Cinderpelt, but decided it would be better to explain the situation to her individually. By the time he returned to the warrior's den, the other cats were fully awake. A moment later, Whitestorm padded under the shelter of the branches and sat down at Fireheart's side. Mutiny is afoot. What's all this about? Darkstripe asked bad-temperedly, flicking moss off one ear. It better be good. Fireheart felt his stomach churn with nervousness, as he wondered how his clanmates would react when they heard what he had done. Whitestorm nodded at him, nudging him to speak. Taking a deep breath, Fireheart began. He explained Bluestar's plan to attack, and how he had tried to work out a peaceful solution instead. His clanmates listened in stunned silence. Fireheart was acutely conscious of their eyes fixed on him, glowing in the moonlight that filtered through the gaps in the den's roof. In particular, he was aware of Sandstorm's pale green gaze, where she sat crouched near the outer branches, but he could not bring himself to look directly at her. He just hoped that the warriors would understand he had done this for the best of reasons, to avoid battles and save lives. Hi, Cordy Cap! So Tallstar agreed to meet Bluestar at 4 Trees, he finished. Ravenpaw should be there any time now to tell us about the meeting. He braced himself for an outburst from the other warriors. But no cat seemed to know what to say. They merely looked at each other in bewilderment. Eventually, Mousefur asked, Whitestorm, do you agree with what Fireheart has done? It's story time! Today we're reading Warrior Cats, Dangerous Path. Fireheart waited, his eyes fixed on his paws. He desperately needed Whitestorm's support because of the respect he commanded from the other warriors, but he knew that Whitestorm did not completely approve of his actions, however well intended. I wouldn't have done it. Whitestorm spoke with his usual quiet authority, but I think he's right about not attacking WindClan. I don't believe they have taken any of our prey. There's a dog loose. I've scented it myself. So have I, around Snake Rocks, confirmed Mousefur. At 4 Trees, too, meowed Brakenfur. We can't blame WindClan for that. But you're also asking us to keep secrets from Bluestar. Sandstorm rose to her paws, and at last Fireheart had to meet her challenging green stare. A jolt of dismay ran through Fireheart. He had not expected Sandstorm to be the first cat to object that what he had done. I'm sorry, he mewed. I didn't think I had a choice. Just what I would expect from a kitty pet, growled Darkstripe. Do you have any idea what the warrior code means? I know very well what it means, Fireheart defended himself. Is it because of my loyalty to the clan that I don't want to fight an unnecessary battle? And I respect StarClan as much as any cat. I don't believe it's their will that we attack tonight. Why was it when I heard the name Fire Something, I knew it was the Warrior Cats? Have you read Warrior Cats, Cordy? Darkstripe twitched his ears scornfully, but he said no more. Fireheart glanced around, wondering whether he was winning the support of the warriors. When Bluestar gave up her last life and went to join StarClan, he realized uncomfortably he might have to lead this clan, and he could not command their loyalty and respect. The task would be impossible. This is what's important, he went on desperately. WindClan haven't done anything wrong, and we have enough to do, rebuilding the camp and keeping up the patrols without fighting an unnecessary, dangerous battle. How will we keep ourselves fed and prepared for Leaf Bear if we have warriors injured or even killed? He's right, Brindleface spoke up, and the others turned to look at her. Our children would be in the battle, she went on quietly. We don't want them hurt for nothing. Frostfur added her agreement, but the rest of the warriors were still murmuring amongst themselves. Again, he was aware of Sandstorm and the distress in her pale green eyes. He could understand how torn she must feel now between her loyalty to Bluestar and her commitment to him. Right now, Fireheart wanted nothing more than to press himself against her flank and forget all of this in the sweet scent of her fur. But he had to go on standing in front of his warriors, waiting for their verdict on whether they should support him or not. Romance! So, what do you want us to do? Longtail meowed at last. I'll need a party of warriors ready to go with Bluestar to Four Trees, Fireheart replied. If Ravenpaw doesn't come, or if Bluestar doesn't agree to talk, then she'll lead us into battle. And if that happens... His voice failed. He swallowed. Yes? What then? Sandstorm demanded. Do you want us to disobey Bluestar's direct orders? Turn around and run away? Dustpelt, tell Fireheart what a mouse-brained idea this is. Dustpelt's ears pricked up in surprise. Fireheart knew very well that part of the Brown Warrior's antagonism towards him was because Sandstorm so clearly preferred Fireheart now. He braced himself for more criticism, but Dustpelt meowed hesitantly. I don't know, Sandstorm. Fireheart's right that it's a bad time for battle, and besides, no cat can seriously believe that WindClan is stealing our prey. If Bluestar thinks so, then, well, he broke off, scuffling his paws in confusion. It's understandable that Bluestar can't trust WindClan, Fireheart mewed, instinctively defending his leader. Not since they've stopped her going to Highstones, and we've never known dogs loose in the forest before. But there's no evidence at all that WindClan took those rabbits, and plenty of evidence that a dog did. So what do you suggest if it comes to a battle, Fireheart? Asked Mousefur. Come back to camp when Bluestar gives the order to attack? No, Fireheart replied. Tallstar seemed willing to meet Bluestar in peace, and if we're lucky, he'll only have a warrior or two with him. It won't come to a fight. That's a pretty big if, mewed Mousefur. With a skeptical flick of her tail. What if WindClan assumes the same thing and set an ambush for us? We'd be crow food. Fireheart winced as she voiced Whitestorm's own doubts about whether they could trust Tallstar. I'm not going, Longtail announced loudly. Let WindClan tear us apart? I'm not mouse-brained. Dustpelt, who was sitting next to him, turned his head and gave him a scorching look of contempt. No, you're a coward, he meowed. I'm not. Longtail's protest was shrill. I'm a loyal ThunderClan cat. Fine, Longtail, Fireheart broke in. We don't need every warrior to go. You can stay and guard the camp. And that goes for the rest of you, he added. If you don't want to be part of this, stay here. He waited tensely for his warriors to respond, looking around at the troubled faces in the dim light of the den. I'll go, meowed Whitestorm at last. I think we can trust Tallstar not to fight, if there's an alternative. Fireheart shot him a grateful glance as the other warriors hesitated, murmuring to each other or shifting uncomfortably among the mossy bedding. I'll go too. Breakenfur sounded nervous to be the first to speak among so many older warriors. So will I, mewed Dustpelt. His tail lashed once in Fireheart's direction. But if WindClan attacks, I'll fight. I'm not going to be clawed apart for any cat. The rest of the warriors joined in. To Fireheart's surprise, Darkstripe agreed to go, while Mousefur refused. I'm sorry, Fireheart, she meowed. I think you're talking sense, but that's not the point. The warrior code isn't something you stick to when you feel like it. I don't think I could disobey my leader as she ordered me to attack. Well, I will go, Brindleface asserted. I don't want to see my kits torn to pieces in a battle we don't have to fight. I'll go too, meowed Frostfur. Her gaze swept over the warriors around her as she added, We don't raise kids to fight unjust battles. At last, Fireheart had to face Sandstorm, who so far had said nothing. He could not imagine what he would do if she refused to support him. Sandstorm? he mewed hesitantly. Sandstorm crouched with her head down, not meeting his eyes. I'll go along with you, Fireheart, she muttered. I know you're right about the dogs, but I still hate lying to Bluestar. Fireheart moved to her side and gave her ear a quick lick, wanting to thank her, but she jerked her head away without looking at him. Yikes. What about the apprentices? Darkstripe asked. Do you want them to come with us? Fernpaw's too young to get involved. I agree, Dustpelt mewed swiftly. For all his tension, Fireheart had to suppress a purr of amusement to hear Dustpelt betraying the soft spot he felt for Darkstripe's apprentice. I'd prefer to keep Brightpaw out of it, meowed Whitestorm. But won't Bluestar think there's something odd if we don't take any apprentices with us? Asked Breakenfur. That's a good point, Fireheart nodded at the young warrior. Okay, we'll take Swiftpaw and Cloudpaw, but only if Bluestar wants us to take that many cats with her. And we'll tell them what's going on after we leave. The news will be all around camp otherwise. Fireheart realized to his surprise that he had more warriors on his side than he needed. If Ravenpaw made it to camp on time, and Bluestar agreed to go to talk to Tallstar, it would seem odd if a whole fighting patrol of warriors offered to go with her. Besides, he didn't want to leave camp vulnerable to attack, especially now. Why don't Frostfur and Breakenfur stay and help guard camp? He suggested. I'm grateful for your support, but you may be needed here. Breakenfur and Frostfur exchanged a glance and then nodded. Now, the rest of you better get some sleep, he continued. We leave at moonset. He watched the warriors settle down in their bedding, but he did not join them. He knew he had no chance of sleeping, and he wanted to tell Cinderpelt what was going on before she heard it from any other cat. If it weren't for his faith in Spotted Leaf, he would have started to doubt long ago that he could stop the battle. There seemed to be so much that could possibly go wrong. Ravenpaw might not bring the message in time. Bluestar might refuse to talk to Tallstar. WindClan might ambush them at 4 trees. Giving himself a shake, Fireheart emerged into the clearing. He glanced around for any sign of Ravenpaw, but the camp lay silent in the moonlight. A pair of eyes gleamed from the entrance to the gorse tunnel, and as Fireheart padded closer, he made out a pale shape of Ashpaw on guard. Do you know who Ravenpaw is? He asked. When the apprentice nodded, he went on. He hasn't been here tonight, has he? Looking puzzled, Ashpaw shook his head. If he comes, Fireheart instructed, let him in, and take him straight to Bluestar, okay? Okay, Fireheart. Ashpaw was clearly bursting with curiosity, but he didn't ask any questions. Fireheart nodded to him and went off to find Cinderpelt. Padding up to the medicine cat den, he saw her sitting outside, deep in conversation with Mousefur. Both cats looked around as he approached. Fireheart! Cinderpelt meowed, raising slowly to her paws. What's all this Mousefur is telling me? Why wasn't I invited to the meeting? Her blue eyes blazed with annoyance. Oh my god, I heard my sister. It was just for the warriors, Fireheart replied, though the explanation sounded feeble even for him. Oh, right, mewed Cinderpelt dryly. You thought I wouldn't be interested in keeping secrets from Bluestar? It's not like that, Fireheart protested. I was coming to tell you now. Mousefur, he added, giving the she-cat a hostile glance. Aren't you supposed to be resting? Mousefur returned his glare, then spun around and vanished into the darkness. Well, prompted Cinderpelt. It sounds as if Mousefur has told you already. I don't like this situation any more than you, but what choice is there? Do you really think that StarClan would want a war in the forest, especially an unjust war? StarClan have shown me nothing about any battles, Cinderpelt admitted, and I don't want a bloodshed. But is this the only way to stop it? If you can think of a better idea, tell me. Cinderpelt shook her head. Moonlight shone on her gray fur, giving her a ghostly appearance, as if she were already halfway into the world of StarClan. Whatever you do, Fireheart, be careful of Bluestar. Be gentle with her. She was a great leader, and she might be again. Fireheart wanted so much to believe the medicine cat, but each day Bluestar seemed to slide further into confusion. The wise mentor he had respected when he first came to ThunderClan seemed very far away. I'll do my best, he promised. I don't want to deceive her, but that's why I've organized this meeting with Tallstar. I want her to realize we don't have to fight, and she won't listen to me. Tensely, he added, Do you think I'm wrong? It's not for me to say. Cinderpelt met his gaze steadily. This is your decision, Fireheart. No cat can make it for you. Chapter 14. I've heard names for that series, and for some reason it sounded too close to the names I remembered. Yeah! Fireheart is the main character, so it makes sense that you would remember the name Fire something. The warrior cat names are very distinct in that there's like two parts of them. There's like the raven and then the paw, or the fire and then the heart, the blue and the star. Can you guys hear my voice kind of starting to falter? It's so funny. Let me text my mom. Maybe. My voice is kind of going, but I still wanna. I've hardly read. I've only read 4 chapters. Not even. This is the 4th chapter. Okay, I'm still gonna go. If my voice disappears, then I'll stop. So the tired and true method for naming fictional characters of matching 2 words. But they have like, I'll explain it to you because I really like, I love talking about warriors. So when they're babies, they're called, let's do Raven as an example. So when they're babies, they're named like Raven and then Kit because they're kittens. So all the babies are named their first name and then Kit. So Mouse Kit, Raven Kit, Blue Kit. And then they get turned into apprentices when they're, I believe, 8 moons old, maybe 9 moons old. I don't know. Moons are months. Once they're old enough, they get turned into apprentices who are training to be warriors. And then they get their apprentice name, which is Raven Paw or Blue Paw or Mouse Paw. They get their paw. And then they train to be a warrior. And then eventually, when they're good enough, they get turned into warriors. And then that's when they get the official kind of like unique part of their name. So it's not just like a paw or a kit. It's like blue fur, fire heart, raven tail, stuff like that. Sometimes they're ironic. Like, for example, there's a medicine cat and he has like a runny nose. So his warrior name is Running Nose. Or like, oh, what was that? Oh, Deadfoot. Also, could you imagine calling your kit Dead Kit? That is insane. Why would you call your kit Dead Kit? Oh yeah, this is Dead Kit. What? Anyways, Dead Kit, Deadfoot. Deadfoot? It's called Deadfoot and he has like a limp. You're back, what do you miss? Fireheart's kind of like devised a mutiny, sort of. Warriors have accepted his plan to try and convince Blue Star not to order an attack. That's cool. When I was younger, my mom called me and my siblings pooplings. That's so funny. Ooh. My mom wants me to call for the takeout skills. Maybe I can do... No, I don't want to do that because then I have to pay. What part are we on now? We're at chapter 14. So I think right now we're just waiting for Blue Star to like come out of her den and be like, time to attack. Or Ravenpaw appears, but I don't know if Ravenpaw's appearing or not. Okay. Somebody remind me to call at 5 o'clock. Oh. Thank you! Okay. Chapter 14. When Fireheart returned to the clearing, there was still no sign of Ravenpaw. His belly churned. The moon was high in the sky. Before long, Fireheart would lead her warriors into battle against WindClan, and all hope of a peaceful solution would be lost. Where was Ravenpaw? Perhaps One Whisker hadn't been able to find him, or perhaps he couldn't come, or he was on his way but would arrive too late. Fireheart wanted to dash out into the forest and look for him, but he knew that would serve no purpose. Then he saw a flicker of movement at the entrance of a camp. He heard a mewing challenge from Ashpaw. Another cat answered, and Fireheart shivered with relief as he recognized Ravenpaw's voice. Springing forward, he bounded across the clearing. Okay, Ashpaw, he meowed to the apprentice. I'll look after Ravenpaw. You stay on guard. He touched noses with the sleek cat who emerged from the gorse tunnel. It's good to see you, Ravenpaw. How are you? Even as he asked the question, he could see the former apprentice was looking well. His black pelt shone in the moonlight, and his strong muscles rippled beneath his fur. I'm fine, Ravenpaw replied. He looked around the clearing, his amber eyes very wide. It seems strange to be here again, Fireheart. I'm sorry to hear you were having trouble with WindClan. One Whisker told me everything, and he swore they haven't been stealing prey. Try convincing Bluestar of that, Fireheart meowed grimly. Look, I hate to rush you. I know you must have run like the wind to get here so fast, but we don't have much time. Follow me. He led the way to Bluestar's den. The ThunderClan leader was curled in her nest, but when Fireheart looked closely at her, he could see a gleam of moonlight reflected from her narrowed eyes. She was not asleep. What's the matter, Fireheart? She asked, sounding annoyed. It's not time to go yet, and who's that with you? It's Ravenpaw, Bluestar. Oh, sorry. It's Ravenpaw, Bluestar, the loner meowed, stepping forward. I've come with a message from WindClan. WindClan! Bluestar sprang to her paws. What does that clan of thieves want to say to me? To Ravenpaw's credit, he didn't flinch. Though Fireheart knew he must remember the days when he was a clan apprentice and Bluestar's anger was something to be feared. Tallstar wants to meet you, to discuss the loss of prey, he told her. Does he? Briefly, Bluestar glared at her deputy, her eyes blazing with blue fire. For a heartbeat, Fireheart was sure she had guessed what he had done. There was no ominous pause. Bluestar, surely it would be better to talk than fight, he ventured. Don't tell me what to do, Bluestar snapped. Her tail twitched irritably. Get out of here. Ravenpaw and I will discuss this together. Fireheart had no choice but to leave the den. He hovered round outside, listening to the murmur of voices, but unable to make out what Bluestar and Ravenpaw were saying. After a while, Whitestorm emerged from the warrior's den and padded over to join him. The moon's going down, the white warrior mewed. Bluestar will want to leave soon. Is Ravenpaw here yet? Yes, he is, mewed Fireheart, but I don't know whether... He broke off a movement from inside the den. A heartbeat later, Bluestar stalked out with Ravenpaw behind her. She paced forward until she reached Fireheart, her tail lashing. Gather a patrol, she ordered. We go to 4 trees. Does that mean you're going to talk to Tallstar? Fireheart asked bravely. His leader's tail lashed again. I will talk, she meowed, but if there's no agreement, then we will fight. Hold on 1 second, guys. All right. The night was still dark when Bluestar led her warriors into the hollow where the 4 great oaks stood. Fireheart patted at her shoulder. The smallest of rustles told him that the other cats were following. His heart lurched as an owl hooted in the distance. He had barely had a chance to murmur his thanks to Ravenpaw for bringing Tallstar's messages before the black cat had slipped away from the ThunderClan warriors. He would follow a different route back to his farmland home to keep well clear of 4 trees. Bluestar paused at the top of the slope. As the other warriors caught up with her, starlight cast a faint sheen on their fur, touching their prickled ears and reflecting from their wide eyes. Fireheart could almost taste their anticipation. When he looked across the border to WindClan territory, He thought at first that the sweep of moorland was empty, stretching out into the night sky. Wind swept across it and rustled the oak trees in the hollow behind him. Then he caught sight of movement up ahead. He realized that a line of cats was standing there, with Tallstar at their center. His stomach clenched as Fireheart realized that Tallstar, too, had brought his warriors with him. "What's this?" Bluestar hissed, turning to glare into his eyes. "So many Wind-Clan cats? I thought I was coming here to talk." Her eyes glared furiously at Fireheart, some sharpened instincts flooding her expression with understanding. "This looks more like an ambush than a meeting of leaders." At a flick of her tail, the ThunderClan warriors moved into purposeful silence to form a tight line on either side of their leader, facing the WindClan cats. Fireheart felt the air crackle with tension. He realized that it would be all too easy for fighting to break out, even if WindClan did not attack first. Would Tallstar keep his word and try to talk to Bluestar rather than fight? "Tallstar," Bluestar meowed coolly. "What have you to say to me?" Waiting for the WindClan leader's response, Fireheart nervously sheathed and unsheathed his claws. He did not know if the line would hold. If just one cat moved forward, battle could engulf them all. He saw Dustpelt exchange a tense glance with Brindleface, as if both cats were thinking the same as he was. Next to him, Sandstorm kept her gaze fixed on the WindClan cats, her ears flat to her head. Swiftpaw stared nervously at his leader, but he held his place in line. Cloudpaw, on Fireheart's other side, had dropped into the hunter's crouch, his rump wiggling as if he were about to spring. "Keep still!" Fireheart hissed. A few fox lengths away, Tallstar stood a pace or two ahead of his own warriors. As the first pale light of dawn crept into the clearing, Fireheart could make him out more clearly. His black and white fur was fluffed up, and his tail held erect. Behind him, Fireheart spotted One Whisker and Morningflower and the young apprentice Gorsepaw. "I don't want to fight these cats," he thought. He waited, feeling his heart pound like that of a trapped bird. "No cat is to move," Tallstar ordered at his warriors at last, his voice carrying easily in the still air. "You must be mad!" That was Mudclaw, padding to Tallstar's side. "This is the fighting force she's brought with her. We've got to attack." "No." Tallstar took another pace forward, flicking his tail to summon Deadfoot, his deputy, to his side. Looking directly at Bluestar, he dipped his head. "No battle will be fought here today. I said that I would come here to talk, and that's what I intend to do." Bluestar did not respond. She crouched on the ground, her fur bristling and her teeth bared in a snarl of defiance. Fireheart was suddenly afraid that she had changed her mind and wondered what would happen if she launched herself at the WindClan leader. He sent up a fervent prayer to StarClan that she would not order her warriors to attack. Meanwhile, One Whisker came up to Mudclaw and nudged him roughly back into line. For a moment, that seemed to Fireheart to last several moons. The two lines of cats faced each other, their fur blowing in the wind, their eyes gleaming with a tension that teetered on the brink of breaking out in squalling, biting rage. "Bluestar," Tallstar spoke again. "Will you come here to me, between our warriors? Bring your deputy, will you? And let's see if we can make peace." "Peace?" Bluestar spat. "How can I make peace with prey stealers and rogues?" Yowls of protest rose from the WindClan cats. Mudclaw sprang forward, but One Whisker leapt after him and bowled him over, holding him withering on the turf. Fireheart saw Darkstripe lash his tail to and fro. If Mudclaw attacked, Darkstripe would meet him, and all hope of peace would be over. "Oh," my mom just texted me. "Welcome to the popcorn bucket cake from Big Farm." Let me see. Okay, I'm gonna mute for 1 second while I call the rest. Yeah, I hate phone calls too. That one was annoying because I called one place and it was like not the right restaurant, even though it I got it from like just like a website. It was weird. And then like I called it and then it was like, you are calling the something grill. And I'm like, that's not the restaurant I want. But I just was like, okay, maybe it's a mistake. And it kept on ringing and it kept on ringing. And then all of a sudden it stopped. And it was like, I'm sorry, the something grill is closed today due to a medical emergency. And I was like, huh? And so I hung up and then I checked a different site and I called the number on that site instead. And then it took me to the correct restaurant. And I was like, that was weird. I don't even know where this made up restaurant came from. Suspicious. Anyway. Let us continue. Where were we? Oh yeah, we were in like a tense battle part. Okay. Do as Tallstar says, Fireheart mewed desperately to Bluestar. That's why we're here. WindClan have suffered from the stolen prey, just like ThunderClan. Bluestar rounded on him, a look of venomous hatred blazing in her blue eyes. Seems I have no choice, she hissed at him. But there'll be a reckoning for this, Fireheart. You can be sure of that. Stiff-legged, her fur bristling, she paced forward until she stood in front of Tallstar, right on the border of WindClan territory. Fireheart followed, murmuring to Sandstorm, keep an eye on Darkstripe, as he left the line of warriors. Tallstar watched Bluestar coolly as she approached. The WindClan leader had never forgiven her, Fireheart knew, for sheltering his own old enemy, Broken Tail, but he had the wisdom not to let this grudge influence him for now. Bluestar, he meowed, I swear by StarClan that WindClan have not hunted on your territory. StarClan! Bluestar sneered. What's the worth of an oath by StarClan? The black and white Tom looked taken aback, his gaze flickering to Fireheart as if he were looking for an explanation. Then I will swear by it, by anything you hold sacred, he went on. By our kits, by our hopes for our clan, by our honor as leaders. WindClan did not do what you accused us of. For the first time, his words seemed to reach Bluestar. Fireheart saw her fur begin to lie flat. How can I believe you? She rasped. We have lost prey too, Tallstar told her. It may be dogs or rogues. It is not cats from WindClan. If you say so, meowed Bluestar. She sounded uncertain now. Fireheart thought that perhaps Tallstar was beginning to convince her, but she did not know how to back down without losing dignity. Bluestar, Fireheart mewed urgently. A noble leader doesn't take her warriors into battle without need. If there's the least doubt that... Do you think you know more than I do about how to lead a clan? Bluestar interrupted. Her fur had bristled again, but this time it was at Fireheart who was the target of her anger. He caught a glimpse of the old, formidable ThunderClan leader, and it was all he could do not to flinch from her. Young cats think they know everything, Tallstar meowed. There was a hint of sympathetic humor in his voice, and Fireheart felt a flash of gratitude towards the WindClan leader for his sensitivity to Bluestar's fears. But sometimes we need to listen to them. There's no need for this battle. Bluestar's ears twitched irritably. Very well, she mewed reluctantly. I accept your word. For now. But if my patrol sent WindClan one tail length over our border... She whipped around and called to the ThunderClan cats. Back to camp! She ordered, leaping ahead of them. As Fireheart turned to follow her, Tallstar dipped his head to him. Thank you, Fireheart. You did well, and my clan honors your courage for averting this battle, but I don't envy you now. Fireheart shrugged and followed the rest of his clan. Just before he plunged into the hollow at Four Trees, he glanced over his shoulders to the WindClan cats racing back across the open moor towards their camp. The turf gleamed pale in the soft dawn light, unstained by the blood of any cat. Thank you, Spotted Leaf, Fireheart murmured as he turned away. Bye, Hans! Thank you for dropping by! Bluestar led her warriors back to camp in tense silence. At the entrance to the clearing, Fireheart bounded ahead to talk to Mousefur, who was sitting outside the warriors' den. Any problems? He asked. Mousefur shook her head. No trouble at all, she reported. Frostfur is taking out the dawn patrol with Brackenfur and a couple of the apprentices. Looking him over, she added, You don't seem to be missing any fur. I suppose the peace talk worked. Yes, it did. Thanks for taking care of things here, Mousefur. Mousefur dipped her head. I'm going to get some sleep, she meowed. You'll need to send some cats out to hunt. There's hardly any fresh kill left. I'll lead a hunting party, Fireheart promised. No, you won't. Bluestar came padding up behind him. Her eyes were chips of blue ice. I want to see you in my den, Fireheart. Now. She stalked across the clearing without looking back to see if it was following. Fireheart's fur prickled with dread. He had expected some sort of recrimination from his leader, but that didn't make it any easier now that it was about to happen. I'll see to the hunting party. Whitestorm agreed. Whitestorm meowed, giving him a sympathetic look as he came up with Sandstorm and Dustpelt. Fireheart nodded his thanks and headed towards Bluestar's den. By the time he reached it, his clan was seated at her bedding. By the time he reached it, his leader was seated on her bedding with her paws tucked under her. The tip of her tail twitched back and forth. Fireheart. Her voice was quiet. Fireheart would have been less afraid if she had yowled at him. Tallstar couldn't have picked a more convenient time to talk to me about the prey theft than if StarClan had told him themselves. That was your doing, wasn't it? You're the only cat who knew that I was planning on an attack on WindClan. Only you could have betrayed us. She sounded as if her mind was clearer than it had been for some time, as if the instinct that had sharpened her sentence on the moor had settled into hard certainty. She was behaving like the noble leader he had once respected, giving Fireheart an even more agonizing sense of what they had lost. He still believed he had not betrayed his clan, but he had given away the advantage of surprise, because Tallstar had been wise enough to realize that battles must be close. Would Bluestar send him into exile? Fireheart shivered at the thought of being forced to live as a rogue, stealing prey with no clan to call his own. He came to stand in front of Bluestar and dipped his head. I thought it was the right thing to do, he meowed quietly. Neither of the clans needed to fight this battle. I trusted you, Fireheart, Bluestar rasped. You, out of all my warriors. Fireheart forced himself to meet her flintly gaze. I did it for the good of the clan, Bluestar, and I didn't tell him about the attack. I only asked him to try making peace. I thought, Silence! Bluestar hissed, lashing her tail. That is no excuse. And why should I care if the whole clan had been slaughtered? Why should I care what happens to traitors? A wild light was growing in her eyes again, and Fireheart realized in a moment's clarity had gone. If only I'd kept my kits, she whispered. Mistyfoot and Stone for our noble cats, far more nobler than this ragtag bunch of ThunderClan. My children would never have betrayed me. Bluestar. Fireheart tried to interrupt, but she ignored him. I gave them up to become deputy, and now StarClan are punishing me. Oh, StarClan are clever, Fireheart. They knew the cruelest way to break me. They made me leader and let my cats betray me. What is it worth now to be leader of ThunderClan? Nothing. It's all empty. All... Her paws worked furiously among the moss. Her eyes were glazed, staring at nothing, and her mouth gaped in a soundless wail. Fireheart suddenly in dismay. I'll fetch Cinderpelt, he meowed. Stay where you are. Each word was rasped out separately. I need to punish you, Fireheart. Tell me a good punishment for a traitor. Nearly sick with fear and shock, Fireheart forced himself to reply, I don't know, Bluestar. But I do. Now her voice was a low purr, with a strange note of amusement in it. Her gaze locked with Fireheart's. I know the best punishment of all. I'll do nothing. I'll let you be deputy still, and leader after me. Oh, that should please StarClan. A traitor leading a clan of traitors. May they give you joy, Fireheart. Now get out of my sight. The last words were spat out. Fireheart backed away from her, into the clearing. He felt as if he had been in a battle after all. Bluestar's despair pierced him like sharpened claws, but he couldn't help feeling that Bluestar had let him down too, by not even trying to understand his motives. She had labeled him a traitor without even considering what would have happened if they had fought WindClan. Head down, Fireheart padded across the clearing, not even aware that another clat had approached him until he heard Sandstorm's voice. What happened, Fireheart? Has she sent you away? Fireheart looked up. Sandstorm's green eyes were anxious, though she did not move close enough to comfort him with her touch. No, he replied. She didn't do anything. And that's all right. Sandstorm sounded as if she were forcing optimism in her voice. Then why are you looking like that? She's ill. Fireheart couldn't begin to describe what he had just witnessed in Bluestar's den. I'm going to get Cinderpelt to see her. Then maybe we can eat together. No, I said I'd go hunting with Cloudpaw and Brindleface. Sandstorm scuffled her front paws, not looking at him. Don't worry about Bluestar, Fireheart. She'll be all right. I don't know. Fireheart couldn't repress a shiver. I thought I could make her understand, but she thinks I betrayed her. Sandstorm said nothing. Fireheart saw her give him a quick glance and then look away. There was longing in her eyes, but there was mingled with unease. And he remembered how she had resented deceiving Bluestar. Does Sandstorm think I'm a traitor too? He thought desperately. After Fireheart had sent Cinderpelt to Bluestar, he headed for the warrior's den. He felt as if his legs could hardly hold him up, and he could think of nothing except sinking into the soft darkness of sleep. His heart sank when he saw Longtail stalking across the clearing towards him. I want a word with you, Fireheart, he growled. Fireheart sat down. What is it? You ordered my apprentice to go with you this morning. Yes, and I told you why. He didn't like it. But he did his duty. Longtail meowed harshly. That was true, Fireheart reflected. He had admired the apprentice's courage in a tough situation, but he wasn't sure why Longtail was making such a fuss now. I think it's time he was made a warrior, Longtail went on. In fact, Fireheart, he should have been a warrior long ago. Yes, I know, Fireheart replied. You're right, Longtail. He should. Longtail looked taken aback at his ready agreement. So what are you going to do about it? He blustered. Right now, nothing, Fireheart meowed. Don't flatten your ears at me, Longtail. Just think, will you? Bluestar's distressed at this moment. She didn't like what happened this morning. She won't want to think about promoting apprentices. No, wait. He flicked his tail to silence Longtail as the player warrior opened his mouth to protest. Leave it with me. Sooner or later, Bluestar has to realize what happened was for the best. Then I'll talk to her about making Swiftpaw warrior. I promise. The Longtail sniffed. Fireheart couldn't see he wasn't happy, but he couldn't think of any reason to object. All right, the pale tabby warrior mewed, but it better be soon. He stalked off again, leaving Fireheart to head for his nest. As he curled into the soft moss, shutting his eyes tight against the early morning light, he couldn't help worrying about the 4 older apprentices. Cloudpaw, Brightpaw, and Thornpaw all deserved to be warriors as well as Swiftpaw, and the clan desperately needed them to take on full warrior duties. But in her present mood, convinced that she was surrounded by traitors, Bluestar would never agree to give them warrior status. Fireheart dreams were dark and confused, and he woke to find a cat was nudging him. A voice meowed. Wake up, Fireheart! Blinking, he focused his eyes on Cinderpelt's face. Her gray fur was ruffled and her eyes wide with anxiety. Fireheart was awake in a heartbeat. What's the matter? It's Bluestar, Cinderpelt replied. I can't find her anywhere. Oh! Bluestar Smiley hits just as hard as the first time I read it. It hits me harder this time, I feel. Because I wasn't a fan of her the first time I read, and this time I'm much more a fan of her. So to see her, like, descend, it's, like, wild. So soon? What do you mean so soon. You understand her more, right? It's like I've grown up. I've learned. Oh. On one hand, I want to keep on reading. On the other hand, my throat is dying. For real. I thought that was the next book. Oh no. This is the second last book. Cat. This is the second last book. Thank you for the hydrate! You're right! It won't be able to read next time. We're at page 96 out of 167. So potentially, I could finish next time. I was a little bit worried that I wouldn't be able to finish if I ended early today. But I think because my throat's kind of messing up, I should give it a break. We didn't get to that moment! I'm waiting so expectantly for that moment to hit. But it didn't hit! We haven't gotten to it yet! Grr. Grr. And my food is arriving soon, so I think I'll break for now. I have a Halls here, so maybe I'll pop in a Halls. Pop in a Halls. You're left shooketh. Yeah, we're left wondering where the heck Blue Star went. Because I don't remember. I remember so little of Blue Star's spiral. Yeah, it's a good cliffhanger. Okay. Who shall we wait today? Who shall we wait today? I know where it's headed. I just don't know how it gets there. I'm just thinking the cat might be taking a delirious walk through the woods. I guess technically she is taking a delirious walk through the woods. I think you're right, Cordy. I think she is. But I don't know where that's headed. POV dementia. Poor Blue Star. Is it? That must suck. Poor kitties. Oh, Lord. Yeah, they're up to something, all right. Squid is streaming! Let's raid Squid. Poor George. Poor George. Yeah, poor George, all right. Go uncommon. Her brain is a little upsetty right now.
The only thing about games like...
Okay, guys. Scrambled. Like eggs. So I might not stream on Friday. But I might... I'm probably gonna see Spider-Verse on Friday. So I might stream earlier if I do wind up streaming. Thank you! You have a good night too, Cordy. Thank you for dropping by for your first Warrior Cat Wednesday! I think it'll feel better. I'm drinking Halls. I mean eating Halls. So that'll help. So I'll stream hopefully Friday morning. If not Friday morning, then Saturday. I hope you guys have a good day. If it's day for you, if it's night for you, have a good night. Brush your teeth. Floss your teeth. Wash your face. with your skincare routine. And if it's day, put on some sunscreen. We have 9 seconds to go. Remember, guys, moderation is the key to true happiness. Bye! Love you!